Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And today we're going to do something kind of different. We're going to be heading to Nepal,
Okay.
to the rugged, beautiful hills of Nepal, to explore a system that really might just change how
Wow.
you think about work and community.
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Um, so get this. In some villages, they practice this thing called Parma,
Okay.
a labor exchange where money's not even part of the equation.
So it's a totally different way to think about resource management
Yeah,
than what we're used to here.
absolutely.
Fascinating how this system has been rooted
Oh.
in centuries of tradition
Yeah.
and demonstrates a whole different approach to
Yeah.
how we even think about labor and resources.
Exactly. So no dollars, no rupees,
Yeah.
just pure sweat equity.
I love that.
Yeah, right? So our sources today paint this really vivid picture of
Right.
this village called Khasrang,
Okay.
where close-knit families rely on each other for everything,
Makes sense.
especially when it comes to farming on the slopes of the Himalayas. Oh, wow. So that's where Parma comes to life.
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
So think about it this way.
Okay.
You need 20 people to help plant your rice paddy.
Okay.
You wouldn't pay them wages.
Right.
You'd now owe them 20 days of work in return.
I see.
That's your Parma debt.
Interesting.
So, but it's more than just people, right?
Yeah.
Our notes mention that even oxen
Oh.
have their own Parma value.
Okay, so tell me about that.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that for us a little bit?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So a pair of oxen, along with the handler, are considered equal to 3 people
Really?
worth of labor.
Wow.
So if a neighbor helps you plow your field with their oxen,
Okay.
you would be racking up 3 days worth of Parma debt to repay later on.
Oh, wow.
And this really shows how important
Yeah.
livestock are in this way of life.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense when you think about it, especially in a place where catch was historically scarce.
Yeah.
This system has obviously worked for generations,
Right.
but I'm guessing it's not without its challenges.
Uh-huh.
What happens if somebody can't or won't fulfill their Parma obligations?
Well, it goes beyond a simple IOU.
Right.
It's really about survival and community reliance.
Right.
Refusal to reciprocate could lead to social ostracization.
Oh, wow.
Your neighbors might not be so quick to help you out next time you need a hand harvesting
Oh, yeah.
or building a home.
Yeah.
And in a place like Khasrang, that can really have a devastating ripple effect
Yeah, I can
on
imagine.
your life.
So it seems that Parma is more than just about getting tasks done.
Yeah.
It's really woven into the social fabric of the community.
Yes.
It's like a social contract.
Yeah,
Encourages cooperation, discourages freeloading.
exactly. Parma incentivizes individuals to contribute to the good of everybody,
Right.
knowing that their efforts will be reciprocated when they are in need.
Yeah.
And this creates a system of interdependence.
Which is really important for
Yeah.
a community like that,
It is.
especially in the setting they live in.
Yeah.
So that raises an interesting question.
How did this unique system come about?
Okay.
Like, was this a deliberate thing that happened,
Oh.
or did this just evolve over time?
So I think we need to take a step back
Okay.
and look at the historical context
Okay.
to really understand how Parma emerged.
Okay.
So centuries ago, these remote villages had limited access to money.
Right.
So their wealth was measured in the land they farmed and the labor they could provide.
So it was out of a necessity.
Yes, Parma was a way to ensure that everyone had access to the help that they needed
Okay.
to survive, even when there was no hard currency.
It's amazing how necessity can spark innovative solutions.
Yeah.
I mean, Parma is more than an economic model.
Right.
It's a testament to human resilience
Yes.
and adaptability.
Absolutely.
But as we know, the world is changing rapidly.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know how Parma is doing in the face of modernization.
Oh, yeah.
Is it holding strong,
Good question.
or are there cracks starting to show?
Well, that's where things get a little bit more complex. We're seeing a trend
Yeah.
across a lot of rural communities in Nepal,
Okay.
and Khasrang is no exception.
Okay.
While Parma is deeply ingrained in their culture,
Right.
it's facing some real challenges in the 21st century.
Well, let's unpack those challenges.
Yeah.
What are the key factors that are putting pressure on this age-old system?
One of the biggest factors is outmigration.
Okay.
Young people are leaving the villages
Right.
to search for better economic opportunities.
Makes sense.
And that shrinks the pool of available labor
Yeah.
and creates a strain on the traditional Parma network.
Right, because there are fewer hands to go around.
Exactly.
And I imagine technology plays a role as well.
Absolutely. The introduction of modern farming techniques, while beneficial in a lot of ways,
Right.
can reduce the need for manual labor.
Right.
And with better infrastructure,
Yeah.
connecting villages to towns, people have more access to goods and services.
Right.
And that makes them less reliant on their immediate community for survival.
So it seems like modernization, while bringing progress and opportunity, can also erode traditional practices
Yeah.
and those social bonds that come with it.
Yeah.
And that's a bittersweet reality
It is.
that a lot of cultures grapple with.
Yeah. And this leads to a larger conversation about the trade-offs that we make
Right.
as societies evolve.
Yeah.
Do we lose something valuable when these systems decline?
Right.
And if so, is there anything we can do to preserve them,
Right.
even as the world modernizes around them?
These are really important questions.
Yeah.
And before we dive into those deeper implications of Parma's decline,
Yeah.
let's just pause here for a second. I'm
Okay.
curious to know from you, the listener,
Yeah.
does this system resonate with you in any way?
Good question.
Have you ever experienced anything similar to this?
Yeah.
A community-based exchange like this?
Think about it.
Yeah, think about it. We'll be
Okay.
back in a second. It's interesting to think about how a system like this
Yeah.
shapes not just the work, but the very fabric of a community.
Yes.
It makes you wonder what happens to that social safety net that Parma provides when
Right.
it starts to fray.
That is a great question.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if that's the system that's holding everything together.
Yeah, you see, in a traditional Parma system, even people with fewer resources
Right.
can still participate and contribute,
Right.
knowing that their labor holds value.
Right.
And that creates a form of social equity that's harder to maintain when the system weakens.
So we're not just talking about a decline in labor exchange.
Right.
We're talking about a shift in the social hierarchy and how people support each other.
Yeah, exactly. If modernization leads to a decline in Parma, it's worth thinking about.
Yeah.
What new systems might emerge
Right.
to make sure everyone in the community can access the support that they need.
Right.
And this goes beyond just practical help, too.
Yeah.
Think about how Parma influences social standing
Right.
and a sense of belonging.
Yeah, that's a point I hadn't really considered.
Yeah.
How exactly does Parma tie into an individual standing in the community?
Well, it's not as simple as the more work you do,
Right.
the higher your status.
Right.
Participating in Parma demonstrates reliability,
Yep.
willingness to contribute, the ability to reciprocate. It builds trust, which is a form of social capital
Yeah,
in a close-knit community like Khasrang.
that makes a lot of sense. It's not just about the work.
Right.
It's about what that work represents in terms of character
Yeah.
and trustworthiness.
Exactly.
Which leads me to another question.
Okay.
How does Parma impact decision-making within the community?
Okay.
Does it play a role in resolving disputes?
Absolutely.
Like if two people have a disagreement?
The interdependence fostered by Parma means that conflict resolution is a community affair.
Okay.
Disagreements can't be ignored because you're going to need that person's help later,
Right.
and they're going to need yours.
So there's a built-in incentive to find amicable solutions
Yeah.
and maintain that harmony.
Exactly.
It seems like Parma promotes a kind of collective responsibility
Yeah.
where everyone has a stake in the well-being of the whole community.
It's a key insight,
Yeah.
It challenges that individualistic mindset
Right.
that we see so often in modern societies.
Yeah.
Parma suggests that true resilience comes from recognizing
Yeah.
our interconnectedness and investing in our communities.
I know we've been focusing on the challenges that Parma faces,
Right.
but are there any aspects of modernization
Uh,
that might actually complement this system?
oh, that's an interesting question.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or maybe even strengthen it?
One could argue that improved communication technology
Okay.
might actually make it easier
Okay.
to coordinate labor needs
Right.
and track obligations.
Right.
So it could help those who have migrated
Right.
connect with those who've stayed in the village and maybe foster new forms of long-distance Parma participation.
That is a very interesting point. It
Yeah.
suggests that modernization isn't an all-or-nothing thing.
Right.
There might be ways to adapt it and integrate new technologies
Yeah,
while still holding on to the core principles of Parma.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about finding that balance.
Right.
And that brings us back to you, the listener.
Yeah.
What resonates with you
Yeah.
about this system,
Yeah.
this intricate web of labor and social exchange?
Maybe this has sparked some ideas for you
Yeah.
about how we approach community building in our own lives.
Good point.
Are there aspects of Parma that we can learn from,
Yeah.
even if our situations are different?
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we live in a very different world than they do.
As we continue our exploration, we're going to delve further into the potential lessons Parma holds for all of us,
Yeah.
even as this ancient system navigates the uncertainties of a rapidly changing world.
You know, as we've been talking about Parma, I keep thinking about the parallels to our own gig economy.
Oh, yeah.
We have these platforms that connect people for short-term tasks, but it just feels like it's missing
Yeah.
that sense of community and long-term reciprocity
Right.
that defines Parma.
Yeah, it's a good comparison.
No?
While both systems facilitate the exchange of labor,
Right.
their motivations and social implications
Yeah.
are really different.
Yeah.
The gig economy is all about efficiency
Right.
and individual gain,
Right.
while Parma emphasizes social cohesion and support.
It really makes you wonder if we've lost something
Yeah.
in our pursuit of this more individualized and transactional approach to work.
Yeah, Parma reminds us that labor can be more than just a means to an end.
Right.
It can be a tool for building relationships and strengthening communities.
And are there lessons we can learn from Parma,
Yeah,
even if we don't adopt the whole system?
right. Could we find ways to incorporate some of that?
Right. Reciprocity and community support into our own economic structures.
That's a really interesting thought.
Yeah.
Imagine designing systems
Right.
that incentivize not just individual success,
Yeah.
but also contributions to the greater good.
Right.
Maybe that's a bit idealistic,
Might
but
be.
Parma shows us it's not entirely impossible.
And it's not just about these big systemic changes either.
Right.
It's about how we apply these principles to our own lives.
Right.
Like, do we help our neighbors when they need it?
Yeah.
Do we volunteer our time and skills to support our communities?
Those are really great questions.
Yeah.
I think maybe the spirit of Parma can live on,
Yeah.
not just in Nepal, but
Right.
in the way we interact with each other and support each other.
I love that. I think the story of Parma is ultimately a story of human connection
Yes.
and resilience.
Absolutely.
It reminds us that even when things change,
Right.
we can shape our communities
Yeah.
and build systems that prioritize working together and mutual support. Well said. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, we invite you to continue exploring these ideas.
Yeah.
Look into other traditional exchange systems,
Yeah.
look for opportunities to get involved in your own community,
Right.
and maybe ask yourself how you can bring a little bit of that Parma spirit into your own life.
Thanks for joining us on this journey to Nepal.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Yeah.
Keep seeking those deeper connections.
Yeah.
And remember, the most valuable thing we have might just be our willingness to help each other out.